Now, we know that a lot of you out there have to undertake things like demonstrations, product trials, evaluation periods, and those kind of activities. And certainly some of our clients have the same challenges. We wanted just to take some time and talk about the ways in which really effective people that we're working with are managing those sort of activities. And there really is a difference between the activity that they undertake and the activity that we see in the bulk of the sales environment. For the majority of salespeople, when a client asks to do a demonstration or a trial of your product, we see that as a benefit. We see that as a buying signal on the part of the client that they're now interested in doing business with us. Unfortunately, the statistics do not bear that out. The majority of the time, demonstrations, evaluations, and trials don't lead to actual business. So creates a lot of issues, creates just a huge pull on your own company's logistics and manufacturing infrastructure, waste of your time, really a waste of the client's time too, and it ties up equipment and products that could be used more profitably elsewhere. So, in terms of what our high-performing clients do, I think it's pretty obvious some of the things that they do very well. Demonstrations, trials, evaluations are about setting criteria on the part of both parties to the demonstration. It means this. It means when a client asks to undertake an evaluation or trial, the very first decision that needs to be taken are, what are the criteria by which that trial will be deemed a success or a failure? So there's some imperatives there. As you influence those criteria, clearly you want to make sure that the criteria play as closely to the things you know that your solution does well as possible. That's just good sense from a sales perspective. Most importantly, it's about documenting those criteria and the measures associated with them, making sure they're realistic and fair, and then making sure that the trial is genuinely set up to measure against those criteria. There's another important facet amongst high performers, and that is that when they undertake a trial or an evaluation, it's always to prove value that will lead to a decision, not to prove functionality that simply proves the product will do what it says it will do. There are many other ways your company has of proving your product will do what it says it will do. Rather more difficult to prove value in an organization. And high-performing salespeople that we work with spend an enormous amount of time when they are undertaking an evaluation trial or setting up a demonstration, ensuring that it's oriented around proving value in a real setting for the organization that wants to buy. Third thing they do is they use trials and evaluations as the best trial close they have at their disposal. I don't think I can count the number of times I've talked with salespeople who've chosen not to put a document in place prior to a trial or evaluation that says, should this be successful, we agree to buy your product. It's a form of letter of intent, if you like. I'm not sure why salespeople don't do it. I think most often it's because we're scared the customer won't want to sign it. Well, if we stop for a second and take on our persona of professional paranoia that I've talked about previously, we'll realize that we should be really concerned if a client doesn't want to sign a statement of intent to buy our product if a trial or an evaluation goes well. It tells us something about their real level of seriousness to buy at all. And if we don't think they're serious in their intent to buy, why would we give them a trial? So the question, the document, the intent prior to an evaluation that says, okay, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, what we'd like to do is document the criteria by which we're going to undertake the trial, the value that we're going to prove relative to your business, the extrapolation of that value that we're going to make that builds our business case for us. And by the way, the sentence at the bottom here says that if this is all successful and conforms to these rules we've written, you're going to agree to buy and contract with us. That should be just common practice, base practice. It is common practice in about 3% of salespeople. And strangely, those 3% of salespeople are the salespeople who produce the most consistently over-target results that we find on the market. So if it works for them, it would seem to make sense if the rest of us adopted that same principle. Let's not be afraid to ask for commitment prior to a commitment on our own part to loan or trial or evaluate our equipment and products. Let's not be afraid of what the client might tell us or insinuate by not wanting to commit to purchase based on a trial. It tells us if they will not make that commitment, either that they were not serious about buying in the first place, or that there's more to be done yet in terms of proving value to the right influencers in a business. And so we should maybe hold the trial until we've managed the politics, the influence, and the decision-making cycle really crisply. It's a behavior we see really strong salespeople undertake, and I'd guide everyone to try and adopt the same rules. Similar rules carry over as you develop proposals. Proposals we find happen in two forms. We work with a lot of clients who seem to be locked in the whole RFP cycle, so a lot of them in the public sector, those kind of things where RFPs are just a given. For those of you who don't know what an RFP is, it's a request for proposal, a formal document from a company indicating that they're going to make a decision to buy a particular solution or product of some kind, and laying out the technical criteria by which they'll buy it, the pricing criteria, those kind of things. It's a pretty formal process. And it stimulates you developing a proposal. An RFP simply shapes the way the proposal needs to be written with some pretty formal rules. The rules of effective proposals, though, remain the same. And there's one simple guide I can give you in terms of really effective proposals. I'm repeating something I've said before, but it's worthy of repetition. And that is effective selling, because it's political, because it's about influence, it's about showing real, demonstrable, meaningful, significant business value to your client. Not a capability to hit a point solution requirement or a technical capability. An articulation of true business value in the terms by which that client defines value. If you're going to build a proposal for a client, whether it's directed by you or whether it's as a result of an RFP, whatever format you have to deliver it in, if you haven't articulated the specific value to that client, well, it doesn't really matter what relationship you have. It's going to be pretty tough to convince anyone on the basis of that document that there's a meaningful reason to do business with you. So again, as we examine and audit those salespeople that we spend time with in the field who are performing at consistent high levels, we see a trait. That trait being that in every expression to client, including formal proposals, they're thinking about the direct, meaningful value they bring to those clients. They're articulating that value, and they're selling to that value so that they can influence the client in the right way.